What's up, bosses? Welcome to About Her Business, the podcast where we leave all the gossip at the door and get straight down to business. I'm your host, Jonte, and each week I'll be interviewing a different woman entrepreneur from every industry you can think of. First up, we have Miss Nicole Bernard of Nb.Marketing. Now, Miss Bernard is not new to this entrepreneur game. With almost 2 decades of experience, she's here to bring her insights on what she means business. So, ladies, grab those cups and those notepads, and let's get down to it. The meeting is now in session. Welcome, Miss Bernard.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Yes, thanks for coming on our podcast. You became an entrepreneur back in 2007. Take us back to when you originally became an entrepreneur and what pulled you into building something of your own.
I honestly never thought I would be an entrepreneur. Like in college, I always just thought I'd work corporate and wear like the fancy suits and all that. So yeah, an organic farm was not on my radar. That was 2007. I'm originally from right outside of New Orleans, and Katrina had hit in 2005. And my boyfriend at the time, was renovating houses, and he got so tired and was like, I need something new. And my parents had moved up to the Northwest. And so that's kind of how we ended up here. But then serendipitously, this farm became available. We bought it. We were younger at the time, no kids. And we're like, yeah, let's do an organic farm, which was super fun. And again, I didn't think I would ever run a business, but I did all the marketing and, the business side, because that's what my degree was in. A few years into it, we were home brewers. And so we started brewing some beer. And so then we built a tap house as well and ran that for about 7 years total, the farm and brewery. But we literally caused too much traffic, and our neighbors weren't as excited for our success. So we ended up closing our doors. But yeah, it was an amazing experience. We had chickens and goats, and people would just come and sit on our lawn and pick carrots, and their little kids would go get blueberries. And it was a neat experience for sure.
Okay, so for our viewers who may not necessarily know what an organic farm is, could you go into a little bit more detail on exactly what that is?
Yeah, we grew about 40 different varieties of vegetables, and being organic, we weren't certified, but we didn't use chemicals to help them grow quicker or bigger. So it was just naturally done. And so we had the farm, and then we did a CSA, so a community supported agriculture. That was a weekly box. So to make sure that, we had income coming in, we would sell
Mhm.
those boxes, and then they would get delivered. And then we do the farmers markets as well.
Okay, awesome. So I did hear you mention that you guys closed your doors. What did losing that business teach you about success and growth and visibility?
It was crazy. It really felt like the rug was just ripped out from under us. And my
Oh
kids
no.
were 1 and 4 at the time, and so we
Oh,
had spent all this time working on our visibility, our marketing, and people were coming to visit us. It was finally kind of starting to take off, and then that happened. But, looking back, it always has a plan. Like, I don't know that we would have sustained the hours that we were working now. It taught me about never giving up. And it's like, as simplistic as that sounds, like it was just, there were days where it was just like, okay, I'm not sure what's going to happen, how I'm going to get through this, but just make a little bit of movement. What's one thing that I could do today that kind of
mhm.
keeps me going in the forward motion, even if it's like a step to the side?
I want to continue on to that path. Now, I want your personal opinion on how did that reshape how the way you think about sustainability and risk as a woman entrepreneur? Because I know you talked a lot about starting with your husband and the businesses. How did that change for you?
Yeah. So after that, the farm closed down, I started working for a marketing agency, and then decided to start completely on my own, a marketing agency of my own in 2016. And going through that situation, it was like, well, I mean, you got through that. Like, what's the worst that could happen if you try again and, just be your own business? That was 10 years ago and still going strong. So
Awesome. So you did mention moving on to working at a digital marketing agency. So let's go back to there for just a quick second. What perspectives or skills do you feel like you gained from that particular job that changed how you now operate as an entrepreneur?
yeah. So when I worked at the marketing agency, I was like a project manager. So managing different clients and all of their marketing aspects. And even back then, there was still so many different marketing things to do, and so that taught me time management, which I did learn on the farm as well. It's different when you're having to report to someone and you're showing them the KPIs and being client facing. That taught me so much about getting my processes in line, really digging into what each business really wanted to get them the results that they needed. Not everybody has the same marketing strategy. It was awesome. It was somebody that I went to high school with in New Orleans. His brother owned the marketing agency.
Oh,
I worked remotely and it was great. It was a fantastic experience and he taught me so much.
well, that's awesome. It does sound like you gained a lot of different skills, which could actually be valuable in any industry that you work with. So, again, you started your new company in 2016. What changed this time? In your opinion, what do you feel like was different from the first time compared to this time?
Yeah. So the first time I just, I had no idea what entrepreneurship meant or, kind of being able to look at what means like goals or how am I going to make
Mhm.
sure that, like what we want, what and how am I tracking that, to know that we're, on the right path of where we want to go. Everything was so new and like ignorance is bliss, which is why we did not. But with the farm, they got us, we didn't fill out one of our forms correctly. And that was why we had to close our doors. Being a lot more thorough the second time around, writing out those systems and processes and goals and what that looks like, kind of having that like, you can get through hard things. You've done it before. So go for it.
I'm so happy that you mentioned the paperwork aspect of it. When we're talking about starting a marketing agency, is the paperwork as extensive as people make it seem, or is it based on state?
Yeah, I think it's based on state and it wasn't bad. I just got like my LLC, the local license that I needed, things like that with like a business bank account, which was so much easier than the farm stuff because we had alcohol. We were tied to the TTB. And oh my God, that is so much paperwork and so much regulation. Yeah, this time was like a breeze compared to the first time.
Awesome, awesome. Our viewers should know that you work with global and small businesses now with your company, Nb.Marketing. What have you found to be something that's in common with working with, whether if it's global or small, that seems to be a challenge when it comes to marketing?
Yeah, and it's where I start with everybody, anywhere, so many times, and myself too, jumped right into it because we're so excited to get our businesses going that sometimes we overlook our foundation, which
Mhm.
is like our goals. So the SMART goals, who our actual buyer is. Sometimes when you sit down and think about who you think you're marketing to and be like, okay, this is where they spend their time. This is what they're struggling with. These are the keywords they're looking for. It doesn't quite line up. So getting those goals, that buyer persona really honed in because that's going to save you time in your marketing and effectiveness. And then also your brand voice, like your messaging. So things
Right.
like that. So I always go back and have people start with that. So many people just kind of jump over that. And that's in global brands or like the jewelry shop down the hall.
Okay. So take us actually through a process that you would start. Like, how would you actually start with a business? Would you start with their vision or would you help them create a vision? How does it actually work?
Yeah, so it's a workbook. I actually have it on my website if anybody wants to get it. So yeah, it is literally SMART goals, so specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So
Awesome.
what are we really trying to get? When are we doing it? And how relevant is it? Or does that not make any sense to what your product or service is? Things like that. And then going through the buyer persona, like how old are they? Come up with a paragraph about them. You can even fictionally name them. One example I've always used, like if it's an older retired couple, you're
Mhm.
probably not going to be marketing to them on TikTok, but they would be on Facebook because that's what they know how to navigate. And they're probably looking at pictures of their grandkids. Like, what do they read? Like, do they actually go and check their physical mail? They probably do. So, again,
Mhm.
just like those little nuances that will really help you figure out which channels are the best to market and that will reach them. And so then taking that step further, your brand messaging and your brand voice, like how do you speak to them? Like what are phrases or images or videos that they will resonate with? And that too, like what kind of content do they like to consume? So then you're going to
Right.
want to do that.
Okay.
So just
Okay.
starting that and then starting to do some marketing and see what's working and what's not. I always advocate people looking at their analytics so they can see what's actually working. So yeah.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, you have almost 2 decades of experience. What
marketing advice or trends out there right now do you try to stay away from that's posted online?
So that's a big one. Small business owners, there's so many channels, and we all feel like we need to be on all of them. And that might not necessarily work, especially if you've seen people that have had success on a certain platform. You're like, oh, I should do that because they're doing great. Well, their buyer persona, their ideal customer might be totally different than yours. And
Right.
so that is just, you don't have to be marketing there. You could really do a great job. You could reach them on podcast sponsorships, depending
Okay.
on what they are doing. That's a big one. And so people feel like, oh, we should be on these ones. And then they drop the ball and don't market because they're not sure and they think it doesn't work. And it's just a cycle that I've seen for so long.
I want to stay there for a quick second. How does a person know when to switch platforms? Or should they start off, say, maybe if they're on Instagram and Facebook and maybe switch later on? How does that work in your opinion?
There's no hard time period of when
Mhm.
you should switch, but if you work through it, you know your goals, who you want to market, and say they're on Instagram, you feel like Instagram would be a great platform. I would try it for 3 to 6 months because it does take a little bit of traction, whether that's a social media platform or blogging. So, like search engine optimization, things like that. They do take a little while to get going, but in that like 3, 6, 9 month, you can start to see if it really is gaining traction. And
Mhm.
then you can see if it's a keyword or those posts, like what is doing well, and make more of those in
Okay.
that 3 to 6 timeline. And then make a judgment call. Like if you're not seeing anything working, then that would be a good reason to switch. But don't try it for like 3 weeks, don't see anything, and then think like, oh, it's not working, because that just isn't enough time.
Awesome. Now, of course, we are women, and so I feel like sometimes, me myself included, as an entrepreneur, we feel overwhelmed by marketing. So, from your perspective, what is the biggest misconception that keeps a lot of entrepreneurs stuck?
Yes, I think we analyze the heck out of ourselves, whether it's a social post or blogs or an offer. And so we have this really not great ability to talk ourselves out of things.
Mhm.
So I do feel like, whatever you're wanting, whichever way you're wanting to take your business, and, how that leads into your marketing. I used to be an advocate of saying just starting with one place. And if that is still the case, you don't have any time to be able to try and be on other platforms, just based on the way that customer journeys are so fragmented now. There is a search everywhere
Mhm.
optimization. So if you can pick a social platform, think about a monthly blog or even email that's in addition, so you
Okay.
can hit a few different places with your marketing, and just don't talk yourself out of it. Just do it for a few months, see how it goes, and then make some adjustments if you need it.
Actually love that advice, and I'm actually going to use that myself. So thank you. I want to talk about your new product that you're about to launch. It's an affordable marketing ecosystem that's a custom GPA and a Slack community. Give me a little bit of detail on exactly what that is, because I struggled with actually
Right.
saying it.
I've gone same thing. Like I talk myself out, and it's like, all right, just don't say whatever. If people want it, they'll find it. But I need to work on my messaging in that, because it is a custom GPT and her name is Stella. So I take ChatGPT and I make a separate one within it, and it's all of my 20 years. So it has that workbook in it, has social media strategy, it has everything about SEO. So she is specifically trained on everything that I have produced. She listens to my podcast, I feed her entrepreneur articles that I would read. So it is essentially me, and it's not just like ChatGPT gathering things from the internet. It specifically walks people through how I would do
Oh
their
wow.
marketing.
Oh wow. That's actually awesome. So AI is kind of like taking over everything right now.
It's
So,
here for sure.
so from your opinion, why do you think this new product, Stella, why do you think that the world needs Stella right now?
Yeah. It is getting, so the marketing agency world is kind of changing. And it's probably, the perfect storm of the economy and, AI, the advent of AI and all of the things. You don't have to pay thousands of dollars a month anymore to have someone do your marketing for you. You could go to ChatGPT, the free version, and have it do your marketing or create your content. The thing that I have seen is that because it is such a large language model, it's not
Mhm.
able to have that superhuman strategy behind it. And so that's
Mhm.
why I've taken what I have known and seen work and all the experience of 20 years. And so then that way she can walk them through that one at a fraction of the price of what marketing agencies and have
Wow.
charged over the years. So you have that. And then we have a weekly office hours in the Slack community. So it's like you get to jump on and be like, hey, Stella told me this, but I'm not sure what that means. Or what
Okay.
do you think I should be marketing? Or where could you
Oh,
look at my social? So you'll have feedback from me, but then you also do have Stella, 24/7.
okay. So with the purchasing of the package, does that automatically come with the Slack community access, or do you have to automatically purchase?
Yeah, she comes with it's a one-time payment. It's $150. So you get
Okay.
Stella, all updates, you get lifetime to the Slack community, and then there's like 100-page workbook total. So the people that are like my age that like to print things out and handwrite them, there's that too. So it's like a
Okay.
100-page implementation workbook that kind of goes along with how I set her up.
I'm happy that you have that 100+ page workbook because I'm that person. So thank you for thinking of me and making this product. So I just now want to talk about the packaging. How did you decide the packaging in a way that's accessible rather than exclusive in an industry that kind of gatekeeps? So, because for me, I'm kind of learning the new AI, but it's still a little bit of gatekeeping there. So, how did you create this new system?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted it like I remember being on the farm and luckily my degree is in marketing, but I wouldn't have been able to hire someone to do our marketing for us. So, I don't know, like I've always loved small business owners and entrepreneurs. Like we're just a different breed and there's a million things that we have to do. So, I just wanted to make sure that there was a product that they could rely on that they could afford that helps take away the overwhelm. That's how I came in. And then I also just wanted to have the human aspect with the AI because I honestly think that is kind of the best combo because she saves so much time. Like I use a lot of AI. I use Stella a lot. But then we always have to have the human aspect in it. So yeah, that's kind of how I came up with that.
Awesome. Again, thank you for thinking of me, a small business owner who may not be able to afford those corporate level fundings, especially with there not being as many grants and things out there. Our viewers are thankful for you for creating a system where we can have marketing for our business and get experience with AI. Now, when it comes to building in the technology community, it could be considered a small risk. What role does connection and collaboration play? And how you define the success.
Yeah. Well, with connection, collaboration, I've always, and again, I don't know if it just goes back to being a small business owner and being on the day-to-day grind. I love collaborating and connecting with other business owners. Small business owners, we're the backbone of the country. The more of us that can be successful, the more we can turn around and be like, hey, this is what I've learned along the way. Let me show you. That ripple effect of all of us helping together would be amazing in the world.
That's one of the reasons why I created She Means Business, the podcast, to
Mhm.
give small business owners like ourselves a platform to where we can actually give out insight because a lot of us have a lot of experience and we're branching out on our own. So that's great advice. And I'm happy to be amongst another woman who thinks a lot like me. So thank you again for thinking of collaboration because it's definitely top notch on my list as far as being successful because when it comes down to women entrepreneurs, we have to stick together.
Yeah,
There's just no
totally.
other way around that.
Yeah, it's lonely. Like it can be really lonely, and there's really high highs and really low lows. And I've found being able to be connected with other amazing business owners like yourself, like that's just, it helps. Like we can all support each other when we need to, or celebrate each other when we need to. So
I agree. Now we're getting close to the end and we have just a few more questions. So now we're going to look back one more time. Looking back in 2007, how has your definition of being in business evolved since then, personally, not just professionally?
yeah, I think when I started, I thought entrepreneurship was butterflies and rainbows and I was going to have all the time in the world and like I could make so much money. Just again, ignorance is bliss, right?
Mhm.
And that it was great. And like there were definitely butterfly and rainbow moments, even in that experience. It's evolved to no day's the same. Like be comfortable being uncomfortable, which took me a long time to sit with because I love my comfort zone, but being an entrepreneur is putting ourselves out there and doing things and telling ourselves like, no, we should put this out in the world. It's okay. Success is being able to show my kids too, like you can be a business owner. Like you don't, you know, it's not always easy, but some of the greatest things aren't easy. I have gotten my schedule to where it is pretty free and I really, really love that. My daughter's homesick today. So being able to be home. And I didn't think of that kind of stuff in the beginning because I didn't have kids. So yeah, that's just kind of how it's evolved over the years.
Thank you for sharing, and we do hope your daughter feels better. That flu is going around, and my daughter, she just had it, so we definitely wish her a speedy recovery.
Thank you. There's so much going around. It seems bad this year.
I don't know if it's a new virus or if it's just the same virus that's being spread around. Two more questions for you, Ms. Bernard. For women listening right now, who may be rebuilding after a loss or a pivot, what mindset shift helped you keep going when the path wasn't necessarily clear?
Okay, after losing the farm, I also lost both parents to cancer within about 18 months of each other. Looking back, we can do really hard things. So, anyway, a friend had approached me to do David Goggins. He's like a retired Navy SEAL. He does this challenge where you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And I was like, bro, you're crazy. I'm not doing that.
Wow.
But leading up to it, I did it. And it was such a culmination of what I had kind of gone through, having to be physically able to release it. I can't explain how helpful that was on my mindset because from then on, probably like a year after my mom had passed, I was like, dude, I can do really hard things. There was a mindset shift in that first challenge that I ever did. So I've always encouraged people to, it doesn't have to be running. There is something about testing yourself so physically that you have to dig in mentally. And that's different for everybody, but that's what really helped me.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that with us. My condolences on losing both of your parents. But you said something that I believe that we women do quite often, which is we find a way to keep going. Like we find a way to just get through it. And I think that's what's so great about us women is I don't know where that mindset comes from, but it's
Right.
just, who we still have here and
Yeah.
also a dedication to those that were lost.
Yes.
So it's
Yep.
definitely, again, thank you for being vulnerable with our
Yeah.
audience on that one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move on
Yeah.
to our final question. And I'll give you a second to think about this one. When our viewers watch and listen and think back to this conversation that we've had today, what do you hope they remember about you? And what legacy do you hope your work leaves for women in business?
Yeah. Um, I guess it would just be piggybacking off of what I just shared that as
Mhm.
women entrepreneurs, we don't give up. Like we're so
Right.
strong and we might not do it the quickest way or we might stumble and fall, but we don't stay down. I want women to know that you can, whether it's starting a business or being able to retire in Greece, whatever it is you really want, life is so short. And I feel like we wait and wait and wait. So if you really want something, you can achieve it and you're worthy enough to start going after it whenever you're ready, whenever you want.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's great advice. Miss Bernard, you have been amazing. Thanks for coming on our podcast. Before we leave, want to get all your information. Where can we follow you on socials? Where can we get this book? Where is Stella going to be?
Yeah, my website is probably the easiest place to find everything. So it's Nb.Marketing. There's no .com or anything. Yeah, the workbook is on there. There's a few other free resources on there as well. Stella's on there. That's just Nb.Marketing /Stella. So yeah, that's probably the best place. And I have my social media stuff there too that you could just click and follow, but it's Nb.MKTG. So just marketing shortened on all the platforms.
We will be leaving those links down below. Any last words, Miss Bernard?
No, just thank you so much for having me. This is a great conversation.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, thank you for coming on our podcast. And the meeting, everyone, is now adjourned.
Special thanks to Miss Nicole Bernard of Nb.Marketing for coming on and offering her insights. Be sure to subscribe to About Her Business wherever you receive your podcast. Also, leave me some comments down in that comment section on which industry you think I should interview next. Until next time, keep those goals tight, that circle tighter, and that bank account growing.